Okay, welcome back. Good Erev Shabbos to all. We're up to Ayin Vav Amid Aleph, the Mishnah, and we're continuing to discuss the the physical performance of the Menachos, exactly how they were done, what went into them. Okay, so we have this is based. Says the Mishnah, Kol Menachos tunas sholosh meyos shifa. The chamesh meyas be'ita. You have to rub them 300 times, and you have to pound them 500 times. 300 times and pound them 500 times. And the order was shifa ube'ita bechitin. Right? You did it not when it already was. You did it before it was processed. In other words, it was part of the processing protocol. However, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yossi says this be'ita and the sheaf and be'ita, the forming was after it was what? After it was dough. So according to the Tanakama, it was done to go ahead and purify the wheat. And according to Rabbi Yossi, it was done to make the dough as viable and malleable as possible. Kol menachos bois esa, as I mentioned earlier, any one of the menachos came 10. Right? Remember we said before they folded it up. They folded up, they were 10, and each 10 was folded into a quarter. So chutz milechem aponim bechaviti kain gadol shein boy shnei mesrei. The kain gadol, he would bring the lechem aponim would be 12, 6 and 6, and the chaviti kain gadol would be 12. That would also be 12. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Omer kulam boy shnei mesrei. Every single mincha came 12. Chutz michalois toida unaziris, with the exception of the lachmei toida, which were 10, right? Which came as 10, 4 sets of 10. For Naziros and then Naziris, there were two sets of a Kikin and Revuchin, and they became what? They came as two sets of 10. Shein bois esa esa. So the first din of the Mishnah was this din of shifa ubeita, rubbing it and beating it, rubbing it and beating it. So the purpose was rubbing it was they would do with the hands, fellas. Now the question is, how many times did they? 300 times they rubbed it, and 500 times they beat it. So what would the order be? Shaif achas, or shaf, maybe shaf. Let me how to pronounce it correctly. Shaf, right? So shaf achas, boyet shtayim, shaf shtayim, boyet shalosh. So if you add it up, if they did it 1, 2, and then 2, 3. So the ratio is 3 to 5, right? 3 times shaf, 3 times shaf, and 5 times ba'at, right? 3 times shaf, 5 times ba'at. Now, if you did it 100 times, so that gave you the 300, 500 ratio of the Mishnah. Guys, right? The Mishnah said they rubbed it 300 times and they beat it 500 times. Since the ratio over here is 3 to 5, of 5 times beita to the 3 times shifa, then therefore you have the ratio of what? Of 3 to 5. Now, boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah, am tuye v'usei chad, idilya am tuye v'usei trey. So guys, you're rubbing something, right? So you rub one direction and then you rub it back. So when it says they rubbed it 300 times, that means they did it 150 this way, 150 this way, or they did each, one is 300, considered back and forth is considered 300. Do we divide it up into 2 motions, or we consider it 1 motion? And that the Gemara says, teku. The Gemara says we have to wait for Eliyahu to come ahead and answer that question. Shifa ubeita bechitin. Rabbi Yossi Amir b'batzek. Iboilahu. The batzek v'loy bechitin. Like Rabbi Yossi, only in the batzek but not in the chitin. Aidil ma'af bebatzek. In other words, you'd have to 300, 500 in the chitim, and in addition, 300, 500 to the batzek. Or no, he just meant what? 300, 500 to the batzek, but the chitim not. Tashma, the Tanya, shifa ubeita bechitin. Rabbi Yossi Yomer shifa ubeita bebatzek. There's no mention of chitin, so obviously Rabbi Yossi means solely to what? To the batzek. He does not mean that you'd have to rub and beat the wheat. Kol menachos bois 10, 10, with the exception of the lechem aponim, and the minchas chayin gadol was 12. Rabbi Meir said everything was 12 with the exception of Lachmi Toida and Lachmi Naziris. Lechem Aponim, how do you know Lechem Aponim is 12? Behed Yikasiv Bey. It says it openly. Chaviti Kohen Gadol, Asya Chuka Chuka Milechem. So we have two psukim over here. Okay, we have two psukim over here. It says by the Lechem Aponim, guys, Ki Kodesh Kedoshim Hu Loi Meishe Hashem Chok Olam, and it says Minchas Chok Olam. By Minchas Chavitim it says Chok Olam La Hashem Kolul Taktar. So Memela, the Lechem Aponim where it says 12, and it says Lashon Chok Olam, and it says the Minchas Chavitim Chok Olam. So Chuka Chuka, that's how you know the Minchas Chavitim where it's not stated openly how many they've broken God into. We learned it out from the Lechem Aponim where it is stated. And the Lechem Aponim is stated 12, and it says Chok. Hu Adin, the Minchas Chavitim where it says Chok is also 12. Okay, that's the opinion of the Tanakama. Again, everyone holds it's 12. Everyone holds it's 12. He learns the Chak Chak. Okay. Kol Menachos the boys esaminola. And how do you know all the other ones are 10? So Goma milachmei toida. We learn that from the lachmei toida. Mala halan esa, just like the lachmei toida. Again, we're going to do the next parak, guys. We're going to do the toida in the next parak. But the toida consists of 4 different types of breads, 3 which are matzah, 1 which is chametz, and they accompanied like a shlomim. And it was unique about this toida that as opposed to a shlomim, which 2 days and a night, this was a day and a night. Right? We spoke at many times the Ibn Ezra you go ahead, you bring a toida to thank Hashem. Since you have a shorter period of time which you could eat it, you're going to invite more people, and as a result, the simcha will be well publicized. So just like Achmi Toid is 10, Afkan, so too all Menachos are 10. Fred the Gemara v'leila from Lechem Aponim. Why do you opt to learn from Lachmi Toida to 10, learn out from Lechem Aponim? Malahalan Shtei Mesrei, just like over there, it's 12, Afkan Shtei Mesrei. Says the Gemara. Now, we've done this many times, guys. The last time we did it, you thanked me for the chart. Remember the chart? Right? Well, guess what? We have another one. Okay. I should make it a little bigger, right? Okay. So here you have, we're going to learn out the mincha from 10 rather than lechem aponim from 12, correct? Now the Gemara is going to ask, why'd you opt for this way? You can go for this way. I don't know where that red thing came from. Who knows? Anyway, so first of all, mincha and lachmi taida are both the yachid, where lechem aponim is the kohen gadol. Both the mincha and lachmi taida can be brought by an nedava. The lechem aponim is the chayiv. Both the menachos and lachmi taida have shemen mixed in. The lechem aponim does not. Guys, what do you think it is? Hey, Yitz, you can say hello to everybody.
Are you serious? Been a while.
Huh?
Yeah, nice. Been a while, my friend.
Okay, we'll
I'll
be
speak to you later.
Yeah, this one's not his fault because this is the second shear. He didn't call during the first one.
That's because he didn't know about it. He figured it's only one a day. Okay, guys. So let's getting back to before we were so rudely interrupted. Getting back to our chart. Okay. So what are we doing? We're mowing down. We're saying why the mincha is more comparable to lechem toida than to lachmei panim. So therefore, both yechidim as opposed to kohen gadol, nedava as opposed to chayiv, shemen as opposed to no shemen, nifsala belina, right? Both overnight, both the mincha and lachmei toida psolina, whereas the lechem panim stayed a whole week. 5, the lachmei toida menachos are not doicha Shabbos. The lechem panim is right. The lechem panim they would go eat it on Shabbos. Shalei betuma. Okay, so those are the 6 reasons why you should go ahead and learn out from here. Says the Gemara. No, let's learn out from lechem aponim. Lechem aponim and mincha are both kachei kedashim, as opposed to lachmei toida, which is kachim kalim. This can be only in the azara. This can be eaten right. And this can be eaten right in the Ha'ol Yerushalayim. This lechem aponim in the mincha needs levina. Right? They both need levina, as opposed to lachmi toida does not need levina. These are matzah, not chametz, as opposed to lachmi toida. One of them is chametz, and this, the lachmi ponim and the mincha, is not. It comes by itself. It's not the result of a korban. Mashenke, the lachmi toida accompanies the korban. So what's the answer? Doing the math. Hane nefishin. This is 6. This is 4. Therefore, we're going to learn on mincha from the lachmi taida that it's 10, rather than lechem aponim that it's 12. Okay. So let's go now. Let's see it inside. Let's see it inside. Malahalan shtei mesri av kan shtei mesri. Right before it gets wide, 3 lines up. Mistabra melachmi toida havelel meilif shekain yachid, as opposed to the kohen gadol. Hamistadev nedava, as opposed to the chavite. Shemen, both the mincha and the lachmi toida have shemen. Nifsal, they both have psalina. Shalei b'shabbos, shalei b'tuna. These are 6. Adrabba. Belechem aponim havelel meilif shekain hegdish. It's kosher kedashim, like a mincha's kosher kedashim, as opposed to lachmi toida, which is kosher kalim. Ulavoina, both the mincha and the lechem aponim have lavoina. Matzah, they're both not chametz. V'yetzim, they come by themselves rather than accompanying a carbon lachmi toida. Nonetheless, hanach defishin. The reason to go ahead and compare it to what lachmi toida are more than what, than to compare it to what to lechem aponim. The isvirus lon now, guys, going back to the chart. Remember the chart in Zvachim? Do you learn out Hekesh from Hekesh, right? Can you learn out? We had a whole chart, the different limudim. Can you learn out? So now, the Svirulon Daba Halami B'Gzeir Shava, something that you learn out of Gzeir Shava, Chayzu Melami Binyanav, Neilif Mechavitin Gadol. So now, you have Chuka Chuka. Chuka Chuka teaches me that what? Just like the Lechem Aponim was 12, so too the Minchas Chavitim is 12. And if you learn out then if you can learn out from that Gesei Reshava of Binyanav, then we should be able to learn out. We should be able to learn out the mincha from the Minchas Chavitim. Again, guys, look at me. 2-step process. How do you know Mincha Chavitim is 12? Gesei Reshava Chuka Chuka to Lechem Aponim, where it states openly 12. Now that I've established Minchas Chavitim to 12, can I learn out a binyan av mincha from minchas chavitin? If you're going to do that, that's what I was going to going ahead and entertain right now. V'svirulon dava halomi b'gezer shava choizim ulami binyan av neilif michavite kohen gadol. Learn out from the chavite kohen gadol. Mala chavite mala halan shtei mesrei avkan shtei mesrei. So now, this is the next chart. Here. Binyanav, here's the Gzeir Shava, guys. 12. Chaviti Kohen Gadol Chuka Chuka. Therefore, it's 12. You learn that from Lechem Aponim. And now, you want to learn this versus this. So now, the Lachmei Toida, again, in the first one, guys, we were comparing it to Lechem Aponim. In the second one, we're comparing it to the Chavite Kohen Gadol. No, each one is 12. This is 12 as a result of it, if it's Gzeir Shava. So now, the Gemara is entertaining. Good, I'm not able to learn out 12 rather than 10 from what? From Lechem Aponim. Perhaps I can learn out 12 from Minchas Chavitin rather than Lachmei Toida. So again, this is the same kasha, just a different source. The 12 will be from the Chavite Kohen Gadol, which we learn out from Gzeir Shava. Now, if you do learn that out, now, what are you going to gain over here, guys? Here you're going to have 8, and here you're going to have 6. Guys, you see? Here you're going to have 8 reasons to learn out with the it should be 12 rather than 6. Here, you have a different reason. Okay, so let's go to a different one over here. Okay, this is the Hedjit, both the Mincha and Lachmei, both the Mincha and Mincha in Lachmei Toida is both a Hedjit, not a Kohen Gadol. They're both brought by Nedava. They're not brought as halves, as the Kohen Gadol is brought half and half in the morning, half in the evening. It's Shaykh Pigel by the Lachmei Toida. It's not Shaykh Pigel by the Minchas Chavitin because it's totally burnt. Vein matel chavitin rak, like the whole, it's burnt. It's not a Shabbos, not a Tumah. So I have 6 reasons to compare the mincha, 6 reasons to compare the mincha to the lachmei toida. However, I have 8 reasons to compare it to what? To the chavitim. What are the 8 reasons? Both the mincha and the chavitim come as a isarin. They both come for isarin, where lachmei toida is more than an isarin. Both the chavitim and the mincha, a kli, right? A kli is mekachin. You put them in a kli, whereas opposed to lachmei toida, the shchita is mekadesh to lachem toida. It's the shchita that's mekadesh. Here it's kli. Both the mincha and krita kohen gadol kachik kadashim. Both the minchas chavitim and the minchas have levina. They both are matzah. There is no chametz. They both are brought by themselves as opposed to the lachmei toida, which accompanies a shlamim, right? There's shayach hagosha by the chavite kohen gadol and the mincha. You touch up to the southwest corner, and both of them, ishim, they both go under fire. They both get burnt. The chametz gets burnt by the mincha, and the whole kafiti kohen, the whole thing gets burnt. Mashenk lechem toida is eaten; it's not burnt. And now these are 8. So the Gemara gives us a very, very lumdisha turn. You proved that you can't learn out 12 from lechem aponim because the mincha lachmei toida was more than the comparison to what? Comparison to lechem aponim. Masha'en kain, if you do learn out a dava g'zei reshava, which creates the 12 by the chavitin has more commonality to the mincha than it does to lachmei toida, and then perhaps what? All the minchas should be 12, like Reb Meir. Guys, you hear what we did, fellas? You hear what we did? Guys, you good? One more time. Listen up. We said din that it's 10. Where do you know 10 in mincha? Because you compare it to lachmei toida. State often lachmei toida, it's 10. You have 4 types, and each one is 10. Mincha also, when you prepare the mincha, it's 10. Right? You prepare the mincha, it's 10. Fred the Gemara, learn out from lechem aponim 12. You can't, because there's more commonality between mincha and lachmei toida than mincha and lechem aponim. Says the Gemara. Now the Gemara makes a lumdish turn. Okay, you're telling me that's more. I can prove to you from that you should learn out from minchas chavitin rather than lachmei toida, and thus the mincha will have 12 loaves rather than 10. But that's predicated upon if you learn a binyan av after gezei reshava, because it doesn't say 12 by chavitin. I learned it out from gezei reshava chuka from what? From lechem aponim. If you do learn now, so I know 12 by chavitin. If you do learn the limud, then I have 8 reasons to go ahead and compare it to what? To minchas chavitin rather than lachmei toida. Thus, every mincha will be 12. Okay, now let's just go through inside. We did it outside. Let's go inside the commonality. Okay, says the Gemara. I have 2 lines down when it gets wide. Learn from the chaviti kohen gadol. Just like the minchas chavitin is 12. Afkan shnei mesrei, so too by a carbon, it's 12 rather than 10. Says the Gemara, mistaber milachmei toida havelei l'meilav shekain hedyet as opposed to kohen gadol. Shesnadev as opposed to kohen gadol, which is the chayva. Chetzion, it doesn't come half as opposed to minchas chavitim comes half. Lepigel is shaykh pigel by lachmei toida. It's not shaykh and mincha. It's not shaykh pigel by minchas chavitim. Shalei b'shabbos, shalei b'tumah. Both the menachos and lachmei toida not stuck a Shabbos or tumah. Adarabba, mechaviti kohen gadol have lemelav. Shekain, one isaron, both isaron are flour, but the lachmei toida it comes more. Kli, they both come. Both the mincha and the chavitin are bekli as opposed to the lachmei toida is a shpita. Hegdish, they both kachik kadashim as opposed to lachmei toida was kachim kalim. Ulevaina, there's no levaina by the lachmei toida. Matzah, there's both matzah, the mincha and the chavitin are both non-chametz. They're both by themselves as opposed to the lachmei toida, which accompanies the carbon. Hagosha, both the mincha and the minchas chavitin require hagosha. Vishin, they both have a part that goes on the fire, the kaimetz or the wall of it. V'hani nefishim, and therefore that's nafish. So that's the kasha. Let's learn out 12 rather than 10. That the Gemara answers, right? Hedyet may hedyet adiflay. Nonetheless, to have a choice, learning out mincha from lachmei toida, which are both hedyotis, rather than the Kohen Gadol, that takes precedent. We've seen this before, fellas. Not always do we go after the number. Sometimes the commonality is one of the commonalities is a stronger reason, is a stronger draw. So even though, fellas, even though in this chart, right? Even though in this chart there's 8 over here and 6 over here, so this should rule the day and it should be 12. This fact, the mincha is a hedyet and lachmei toida is a hedyet, takes precedent over the number because this is the Kohen Gadol. This takes precedent. That fact, that seems to be a winning commonality rather than the number. That is more adif. And the Mela, you're going to learn that mincha from what? From lachmei toida to be 10 rather than chavitim, which is 12. Guys, good. At the end of the day, we're learning at 10. At the end of the day, we're learning at 10. Reb Meir says, Kulan boy shtei mesrei. They come out 12. Now, where does he learn it from? Microsoft. Isavra. This is proof to Reb Meir. Isvirale the dava halamed b'gzeir shava chayzim lamed binyanav yalach mechavitin kohen gadol lahani defishin. In other words, the second chart, guys, in the bottom, that the number rules the day. So therefore, I'll learn that mincha from chavitin kohen gadol. Why? Because I'll learn that dava gzeir shava that binyanav from that. Isvirale the dava halamed b'gzeir shava ein chayzim lamed binyanav yalach melechem upon him. You learn that from lechem upon him. Why? Hegdish mehegdish yalaflei. So let's go back to our chart. What was the reason the Chachamim said the Lachmei Toida has 6 and this is 4, right? Hani the Fishin. He held Reb Meir, this wins the day. The fact that this is Kachim Kalim, fellas, look at the line. The fact that Lachmei Toida is a Kachim Kalim, and both the Mincha and Lachem Aponim are Kodesh Kedoshim, that's the same thing as what? That you said below, that this takes precedent. That fact that this is a Hedyet, and this is Kach, and this is a Kohen Gadol. So that would be the reason, like Reb Meir. If you hold the number game, then he has Minchas Chavitin as a result of, if he holds the Gezer Shava, and you can learn how to Binyanav. So Gezer Shava teaches me Chavitin's 12, you learn from Lechem upon him. Then the Binyanav, you have the winning 8 versus 6. Or if he doesn't hold you Davar Lamed Gezer Shava Chayz Binyanav, then you would have the first limud. It's less. That's 6 and this is 4. This 4, there's a winning line. What's that line? Both the mincha and the lechem upon him are kachim kedoshim, as opposed to lachmei toida, which is kachim kalim. That's the sheet of Reb Meir. So those are the two sheetas. Sheetas 10, sheetas 12. So the only things that are 12 are the minchas kohen gadol and the lechem upon him. Chutz milachmei toida uneziris shehein boyes esa. So the Lachmei Toida and the Ziris Shehein Boyin Esa. According to Reb Meir, he would admit that even though everyone's 12, these are 10. Even though Reb Meir holds everything is 12, he holds these are 10. Lachmei Toida behed yiksir behu. Lachmei Toida, it says openly 10, right? Naziris, the Amamar Shlamov, it says Al Zevach Toida Shlamov, guys. It says Al Zevach Toida Shlamov. It's mashma shlamim. Which shlamim? Rabbi Shalmei Nazir. So the Shalmei Nazir, we've had this before, will have the same din as what? As the Lachmei Toida. Just like the Lachmei Toida are 10, Reb Meir would also admit that the Shalmei, the Lachmei Naziris are also 10. Omer of Tubi Bakisna, Amar Shmuel, Lachmei Toida she'afoyin arba chales. As you baked it, instead of making them 10, you know, guys, 4 of 10, 10 of 4, you baked each 10 into 4. In other words, in one of them, you had enough dough for 10. So one challah, you had chametz for 10, and the rakik and revuchin and the matzah, you had what? You had good. So in other words, you overdid it. But in other words, you condensed it. Instead of making 10 loaves, you made 1 loaf of each. Says Shmuel, Yotza, you will be Yotza. Now, guys, what did you do with these 10 loaves? One of them went to the Kohen. It's one of the Kahuna. So, Fred the Gemara Kasha, for being in Arboyim, limits Arboyim, you need 40. It says the 40. Says Gemara lemitzvah. That's only lichatchila. But bidi eved, if you would do 4, it would be okay. Again, it's the mitzvah to have what? The mitzvah to have all 40. But if you have what? You have 4, it's bidi eved okay.
How would you give it to the Kohen?
I think boy frushe truma minayu. You have to separate truma from it for the kayin. The chitema the mafish mikol chada v'chada. You break off a brekel. You break off a piece and you give it what to the kayin. V'echad amrachmana shloyitel paris. You should not give a broken one. Says Rashi. Says Rashi, the bottom line. Echad amrachmana. V'hikriv mimenu echad. Mikol carbon. The pasuk says, "The hikr mimenu." You should bring from it, from each, right? The echad shalei mashma shlayit paras. So you don't have an option. How can you tell me that you condense it into one cake, right? L'chayre you have to give to the kohen, and you can't break it off because it says echad goes to the kohen. Echad's mashma ganzer shtickle, not what a partial piece, right? Mashma a whole piece, not a partial piece. On that, the Gemara answers, right? You know what you're doing? Dafashina belisha. You went ahead, you separated it when it was dough, then you baked it, and then you gave it to the kohen. Here's what you did. You made condensed 4 loaves, and each loaf had 10 in it. You took off a piece, right? And now you took it, and now you baked it. Now you baked it, it's a chalein alone. It's a whole piece. So now that's how according to B'diavad, that's how it's possible to have 4 and give to the kohen. So you be mafresh belisha when it's dough, and then you go ahead and give a piece to the kohen. Meisivei on Shmuel, kol menachos sheriba b'midos, any mincha that you increase the midah, chalasan, oish b'midas chalasan, you increase the amount, oish shemiyah b'midas chalasan, or you amayit b'midas chalasan, k'sheiros, the kasha, chutz milechem aponim b'chaviti kohen gadol, v'lachmei toida v'naziris. So you see, it says lachmei toida. You can't increase the amount. You can't increase the amount. How does Shmuel do with this? Shmuel can't argue on this. After the Gemara, Amid Beis, Hu dama ki'aitana. Shmuel holds like the following: Tana the Tanya, Kol menachos sheriba b'midas, any chalasan or shemida b'midas chalasan. You either increased it or decreased it. Ksheiros chutz milechem aponim v'chavite kohen gadol. With the exception of the lechem aponim and the chavite kohen gadol, v'yesh oimim af lachmei toidin naziris. So the first Tana guy says only what, right? The lechem aponim, the lechem aponim and the chavite kohen gadol. The second Tana says even lachmei toidin naziris you be kosher. Shmuel holds like that second Tana. V'yesh oimim that even what, if you would increase the lachmei toidin naziris, it'd be okay. Shmuel as a Tana, he holds like him, and Mele is good. That's what he said. Amar Afuna, minchas me'afe, sha'afa chala achas. You made it 1. Minchas me'afe instead of 10, right? Instead of 10, you made it 1. Yotza. My timer. So matzah is ksiv. It's missing a vav, guys. Matzah is ksiv. It's missing a vav. So since it's missing a vav, it's showing that it doesn't have to be all 10. It could be chaser. It could be 1. Maskal rapapa timer the ksiv matzahs. Ksiv matzahs. Loi. But Lagabi lachmi toida the ksiv matzahs. By lachmi toida it says matzahs. Bamrav tuvi bakisna mashmuel lachmi toida she'ofen arba chalas yad. So even though it says what matzahs, guys, you're telling me the reason. You're telling me the reason why Rav Huna said 1 is good because it's chaser. Mashma if it wasn't chaser, it wouldn't be good. By Shmuel says lachmi toida it is good, and there it's written malay. And there it's written malay. Says, ahi pligi. Definitely, this argues on Rav Huna. In a chinami, this brisa, this argues on Rav Huna. Says the Mishnah. Now we did this earlier. We did the ratio. Isaroin mishalosh sayin. From shalosh sayin, which is an ephah, you had to get out 1/10 of that, which is an isaroin. Isaroin is 1/10 of an ephah. So it took, to get 1 isaroin, it took 3 sayim. And we processed from that the barley. Now, guys, the barley is a crop that is it's early, so it's chadash. It's a mamish. It's like the first crop. In addition, it's full of chaff, full of psilis. So therefore, to get an isarin, you had to start with a larger amount to be kind of mitzvah min amufcher, to get the most. and you had to have a large amount, which is 3 sayin. Shtei lechem, which also is pretty new, but it's from chitin, which does not have so much chaff. Shtei esroinos mishala sayin. You start off the same amount as you do the oimer. However, from that amount you're able to get 2 esroinim. From that amount you're able to get what? 2 esroinim. Lechem aponim, the lechem aponim, which was esrim v'arba esroinim, fellas, each one of the lechem aponim was 2 esroinim. 12 times 2 is 24. Esrim v'arba sayin. That you only needed the ratio of 1 to 1. In other words, I could get from 1 saw, I can get 2 esroinim. So in other words, that because it came from wheat and it came from yashan, it came from old. So guys, let's go. You have getting the ratios. The first one we knew already. You 3 saw to get 1 esroin. According to lechem aponim, 3 saw to get 2 esroinim, and by lechem aponim, 24 to get 24. So the ratio of 1 to 1. Okay, says the Gemara. My timer. What's the reason 3 to 1 by what? By the Menachos Omer. Kivin the mechodesh asa, since it comes from chodesh, which has a lot of psilis, a lot of chaff. Umisairin asa, and it comes from psairin barley, which also has more chaff. Isarin mufcha loy asi. Isarin mufcha loy asi. This is asi. Isarin mufcha loy asi elim mishalosh sayin. To get a full isarin, you have to start it with a larger amount, 3 sayin. Guys, you with me? Not difficult. It's Hashem's gift, right? Hashem's gift to me. This is, rolling right along. I'm telling you. Says the Gemara. Shtei lechem, shtei esroinim mishalosh sayin. The shtei lechem is why. Now, why? You're getting double the amount from the same amount, right? You're getting 2 esroinim from starting 3 sayin. Keeping the mechitin asya, which does not have as much sheaf as sayin. Afal gav the mechodesh, even though it's the first crop. Asyan, it does asyan shtei esroinim. Asa shalosh sayin. Okay. From 3 you can get 2 esroinim from what? From shalosh sayin. Lechem aponim, esrim ve'arba esroinos mi esrim ve'arba sayin. My timer, 1, kivin the mechitin asi, 2, umeyashin asu. So therefore, Yisar mufcha asi misa. You get 1 Yisar from Misa. Geshmak. Tan Rabbanan. Kol Menachos sheriba b'midas esroinim oishemiyah b'midas esroinim psulais. Kseres akasa, fellas. In other words, you can't diminish the amount. You can't bring Yisarin or less than that. You can't diminish the amount. Right. Look at Taisus, interesting Taisus. Kol Menachos sheriba b'midas Yisarin oishemiyah b'midas Yisarin is psulais. Pirish b'kuntris b'loshen acher mishum de kasheriba havi koimitz nikmatz min achatzia heter. Right? What's the gears on the side? If you're marba, then the koimitz nikmatz hachetzi min heter, v'chetzi nikmatz min Yisarin, and v'havi lei koimitz chaser. So you're going to end up with a koimitz chaser. What is happening? Why would be a koimitz chaser? It's what's in your hand. Nikmatz, since have a koimitz. In other words, since fellas, look at me. I need from an isarin in my hand. If you have more, then that's part that would have been the isarin is not there. So therefore you don't have the heter. It's missing. That part would be missing. Right? That part would be missing. That's his first lashon, according to Rashi. Says, right, the kasha, the askin about koimitz rabba, the koimitz bedaita, the koyin tal yimilsa. By isarin koimitz. In other words, his das was on the isarin, and if his das was on the isarin, that's who cares what it was. It depends upon his das. Therefore, because of that kasha, v'nira says Taisvis, koloshin acher shapirish, the second lashon in Rashi. The chsiv shloish esronim lapar, u'shnei esronim la'ayel. V'em riboy miyat psulois. It'll be puzzled. The Gezeres HaKosav he v'asal l'shnaysa. It's Gezeres HaKosav. It's Gezeres HaKosav. It has to be. That's the amount. If you have more or less, that's not the amount. Okay. Says the Gemara. Ribu midas soyin shalahen oimiyat misarin shalahem ksheres. So now, let's say, guys, look at me. You're supposed to begin 1 and 3 soyin. What happens if you do 1 and 2 soyin or 1 and 4 soyin? It would be okay. This is only a din on how to get. In other words, ratio-wise, they figured out the best way to get one is that you start with 3. You start with 2, so you have to work a little harder. It won't be as mufcher 4, but it's not a reason to passel. Of course, that's a takana d'rabbanan. Mashenkein, this is a gezeres hakosov, right? Like Tosfos said, this is a gezeres hakosov. Like Rashi said in the second lashon, a gezeres hakosov, you need these, sir. Says the Mishnah. Ha'omer hayemenupa b'sholish esrei napa. The omer, it was sifted in 13 calendars. Shtei alechem b'shtei mesrei, and the shtei lechem was in 12. The lechem aponim b'yud aleph 11. Reb Shimon omer lehoylem kitzva. There wasn't a set amount. Elasoilus menupa called tzarcha. As long as they can purchase menupa, as long as the soilus was fine flour, if that was sifted, it'd be okay. Hayamebi shnemar v'lakachta soiles v'afisai say actually menupa called tzarcha. As long as it's sifted, and then it is okay. Tan Rabbanan. Now the way they did it is bidaka, bigasa, right? They would go through a process of a thinner one to get rid of the dust, then a thicker one, then they would go through a thinner one, which was thinner than the thicker one. It goes. Rashi has a whole process over here, and the explanation is the next one. Reb Shimon Elazar Omer shloisha esrei napas haya b'migdash zula ma'ila mizu v'zula ma'ila mizu elyonim kolet subin tachtoinu kolet soilas. In other words, so these 13 is the explanation of which was gasa, daka, gasa, and at the bottom line is at the end of this process you would end up with very fine flour. You'd end up very fine flour. Rabbi Shimon Omer lehoyelem kitzva tan rabbanan soilis v'afisai soy. It says soilis. Yeah, v'lakakta soilis v'afisai soy shnei mesrei chalos. You should by lechem upon him. Right, by lechem upon him, you buy soilis. V'lakachta, you should take soilis. V'afisai soy malamed shenikas soilis. You can buy it. Uminayin shafilu chitin. How do you know that you can even start off as chitin? Now this means unprocessed, fellas. Soilis means you could buy. Reb Shimon holds you could buy processed flour, or you can buy chitin. How do you know that? No, how do you know you have that option? Since it says v'lakachtas soilis, fellas, maybe that's the only thing you can do is buy soilis. How do you know that you can buy chitin? Tamid leimar v'lakachta, and you should purchase. You should take mikol makom. So in other words, you have the word soilis says lichatchila. That's what you should do. The lakachta, and even if you go ahead and buy chitim, it's also okay. I'm not saying it's b'di'evet, but it's also you could do that. Yachalach b'sham menachos kain. I might think this is available by all menachos, not just by lechem aponim, that to buy the soilis. Now, guys, to buy soilis is more expensive than to buy chitim. If you're buying processed wheat already, that's going to be more expensive than buying the unprocessed wheat, correct? So I might think just like you have the option of purchasing fine flour by lechem aponim, who adin you'd have that option of purchasing fine flour by other menachos. Tamaloima oisa. It says Silas v'afisa oisa v'lakachta silas v'afisa oisa. It meaning only by the lechem ponim do you have the option of buying the silas. By other menachos you don't. Nifnei because of what? Because of the hachisachin, the lashon of chas, the lashon of hachisachin. It's an interesting lashon, and if you look, Rashi says, "Heikel hakosev b'lechem aponim." The Torah made it easier. Mifnei hasichim, those who make on the lechem aponim. What does that mean? That my mifnei hachisachim. What does that mean? Amar Rabbi Laza, haTorah chasa al mamonish Yisrael. The Torah has rachmanis on the moment of Yisrael. What does that mean? Let's see Rashi. Yeah,
but ain't assurance. Ain't ideas, Marco assurance, right? By the Mikdash.
Let's see. HaTorah chasa v'lechem aponim shchiach b'chol Shabbos. V'lechem aponim was shayach b'chol Shabbos. V'yesh behen esrim ve'arba esrainim and you had a tremendous amount of flour, guys. You had a tremendous amount of flour. Lefikach, therefore, right? Lefikach, therefore, chisorin gadolhu. Lefi hashoilis hanikach min hashuk yoikim ma'oid. It was very, very expensive. Lefi shahachenvonim mistakeba, because the chavonim had to make a profit. Lefikach nachas chitin. Therefore, you can buy by the lechem upon him chitin. Avol minchas yachid leishchiach. Minchas yachid that's not shaykh so often, like lechem upon him. V'chadi sorin who, and it's 24 times less. Leishchashinan liyakid. There, we're not worried about money. So, in other words, just let's get to teretz and we'll deal with Benji's kasha. You have over here, right? You have over here, the lechem aponim. We said that the reason we were makel with the lechem aponim is the Torah had rachmanis. If the only thing, if every korban, the lechem aponim, you had to buy soilus, it would be very, very, very expensive. It would be very, very expensive. Good, very expensive. Now, therefore, the Torah did what? You could go ahead, but lechem aponim by chitin, it's much less expensive. Masha ein came the menachos, which are not as common and not as much, right? It's not as common, not as much, right? Then you don't have the option of buying chitim. It has to be, guys. That's the teretz. Benji's kasha ena ashir. Now, what's the teretz? That's speaking in the physical manifestation proper of the kalim in the Beis Hamikdash. Whether you don't. Here you're buying karbonis, right? There's no physical manifestation of it's just practical advice. I'll give you an example. Do you remember people were charging a lot of money for birds, and then Reb Shmuel got up and he said, I'll get the market out. You see, there's a practical side also to going ahead and not allowing the market to be going ahead and being taken advantage of. When we say that's in the physical. The physical over here, it's a physical object, but it's not inherent in the migdash. It's just practical. In other words, every person, mincha, you're gonna have to buy and chitin. It's gonna be that. You're right. It's a little bit only silas. Masha'enkein practically lechem aponim, which is again 24 times. The guys you're talking about, the amount of flour is a huge amount, right? 24 times a regular korban, right? Then I would say that if we wouldn't allow chitin, it would be clearly very, very expensive. And that we say no. Hajjan alecha. Oh, I didn't finish yet. Where's the Torah go ahead and maram? Is that? It says, Vashikisa esa eda, vishkisa esa eda es be'iram. And they opened the rack and they gave to drink the eda, the es be'iram, and the animals. You see that the Hashem provided what? Water for the animals. You see the Torah is chasal m'man shel Yisrael. Hajjalech el menachos nikmatzos. Hajjalech el menachos nikmatzos. Hajjalech el menachos nikmatzos. I wish everybody a great Shabbos.